Hello and welcome back to Expedition Builds. I'm super excited to share this next video with you guys, but before we do that, I want to give you a little backstory on it. So not too very long ago, I was asked by a very big Jeep builder out of Utah to come along with them to cover their run of the Rubicon Trail. Yeah, the famous, iconic Rubicon Trail. Incredible fun. We had 2 overnights out for a total of 3 days. In our group, we had 16 Jeeps, which ranged in scale of builds, let's say, right? We had everything from what I would call an everyman's Jeep, everyman's Jeep, all the way up to $120,000, $150,000 rigs with us. So it was pretty much an eye-opener for me. I did not have my personal Jeep with me. Like I said, I was along to create video content and stills for them, but it taught me a lot watching the Jeeps of various size and various builds tackle the same obstacles. And so I want to share that with you. And what I'm going to do here for this story is I'm going to talk to Shane from Genrite Offroad, and Shane's going to give us a walk around on his Jeep. I'd call this thing probably the ultimate JK build. This thing is superb and it's a beast. So Shane will give us a look at that. I'll show you some footage of Shane's Jeep out on the trail, and so you can see what it did. And then we're going to talk to Brad from Dixie 4-Wheel Drive, and Brad was the lead Jeep. I rode with Brad for the whole trail. And Brad's Jeep is built a little differently. So we're going to have one JK that's fully built. We're going to have a JL that is, I would call, pretty much every man's Jeep. It would be a very attainable build, and I want to show you how they performed on the trail. So I'm going to get a look at, you'll see how they're built, and I'll show you how they did out on the trail. And then we can take a look at the differences, and hopefully you guys will find this informative. It sure was an eye-opener for me, so let's get started. All right, first up, let's take a look at Shane's 2015 JK build.
Well, I've been into Jeeping for many years, and this wasn't my first Jeep. There was a Jeep that I modified before this, and like many out there, and many of our customers and many of Dixie's customers, they end up piecing their Jeep together over time because they fall in love with it, and they fall in greater love with it over time, and continue to scale up their time spent in this activity. So where I got to was I sold that old Jeep and started fresh. And obviously I'm biased towards Genrite, and I know that Dixie subscribes to a lot of the same philosophies, which is why we're out here together on the Rubicon. But I started fresh. I bought this yellow Rubicon off of a used dealer lot and sent it out to Genrite in California, and started fresh and put on our Genrite Elite suspension system, which is a 4-link, 3-link, full weld-on suspension system. I've got the full Genrite armor package, all aluminum where aluminum is possible, our fully welded steel roll cage, aluminum roof. Recently did, before this trip, the B-pillar chop, which transforms the vehicle. Underneath, I've got Curry's 60s front and rear, and King 3.0 IBP shocks. Pretty much everything we offer and our best of breed vendor partners offer, except for inside still have a stock motor. But this baby just tiptoed through the entire Rubicon Trail this week with Dixie and Bryce and friends and family, and we had an awesome time.
All right, let's continue to look at all the great Genrite pieces that Shane's running on his Jeep. This stuff is superb in its manufacture and execution. And he's right. That beat pillar chop really transforms this thing. And now let's catch a little footage of Shane wheeling this Jeep on the Rubicon. The way he built this thing, it had no issues anywhere on the trail. In fact, most of the time it looked like he wasn't even trying. Incredible. Shane's running 40-inch Mickey Thompson Baja MTZs mounted on 17-inch KMC beadlock wheels. Now let's take a closer look at Brad's 2019 JL.
All right, you guys, so now one of the things I want to point out when you watch the footage, that Brad hit every hard obstacle. He didn't do any bypasses at all. And let's talk a little bit about your Jeep, how it's built, and because you're going to get a look at how it was used and how it performed out there. So tell me about your Jeep.
So started out as a 2019 Sport. We had some takeoff axles out of a different build we did, and we swapped axles out, so we didn't need to spend for the Rubicon.
So you got stock Rubicon axles
Stock
on
Rubicon axles on it now, correct.
Yeah. What lockers are you running?
Factory E-lockers.
Wow.
Factory E-lockers, factory gears. I haven't re-geared it yet.
There's that 8-speed again, right?
The 8-speed tranny, I love.
3.6, right?
3.6,
3.6.
3.6.
Okay.
The 8-speed tranny is probably the best thing that JLs did.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
Definitely.
It covers up so many areas that we had to fill in our JKs, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, being able to drive this thing, we had some last minute changes before we left.
Yeah.
We were originally going to trailer both JLs to the trail. We ended up at the last minute not being able to do that, so we drove them from St. George to the Rubicon and back. The tranny, the JLs, they're nice to drive that far. I think we did somewhere around 1,600 miles in 4 days, four and a half days.
We're talking about all our gear in the Jeep,
everything,
drive it to the trail, wheel it, drive it home.
Drive it home.
You and I talked about how great that was.
Remember, everybody has that sticker on the dash. Remember, stupid, you have to drive this home.
That's right, easy.
So that was true for this trip.
So we got to axles, and we're running stock Rubicon axles. You're still on 410 gears. You haven't
Stock,
re-geared.
nope.
What are you running for suspension and wheels?
Suspension, it is a TerraFlex 4.5-inch short arm kit. We did the American Adventure Lab Highline fender kit and the inner fenders on it, so you get a little extra. It looks good.
How much bump stop do you think you're running? Do you know?
I literally have like a 3-inch bump stop extension on the factory.
Really
it's literally full stuff. In fact, when we first put this together with the combination on full turn and full stuff, it was getting into the grill, so I had to put wheel spacers on it to get it so the tires wouldn't rip the grill out.
Right.
But other than that, it wheels amazingly well for a I won't say budget build, but for a nice every man can afford to build type Jeep. It's more of what everybody builds.
Point on this Jeep. I mean, other than you're on 39s.
39s, correct. 39
right?
Canatis.
He's on the 39-inch Canatis, which perform super well, and beadlocks.
And method beadlocks, correct.
So I think beadlocks, you guys are kind of crucial to when you see like Brad doing the Soup Bowl. That was gnarly. What were you running? What do you run your beadlocks at?
Air pressure, depending on what I'm doing, I ran it at 10 pounds for this trip.
Yeah, so 10
once
pounds
we're there.
on a 39-inch tire gives you a lot of grip. That rubber is really forming itself onto the rock,
right?
Which is great. Stock brakes.
Stock brakes, stock. Other than suspension modifications and throwing factory Rubicon axles in this thing, it's a bone stock Jeep.
And he's running stock. He's not even armored, which is aside from the rock slide engineering step sliders. He's got his armor on those, and these things took a beating and still functioned beautifully. So, good point. That I was surprised that Brad, for a build and for what we just did on the Rubicon, you could consider this almost a budget build.
It is. It really is a budget build.
Yeah.
It can still be a good daily driver. This is my daily driver.
Okay.
So you can still build something like this and drive it across the country if you wanted to. Wheel it, drive it home. The JLs have definitely stepped up their game as far as what the last generation Jeep, the JK, was.
So true. so much more comfortable inside
It
on
is
the highway and stuff.
way more comfortable.
Still a Jeep, but they made big strides.
Exactly.
All right, so we were out total of 4 days and 2 overnights on the trail. So Brad, tell me about, because with my Jeeping experience, every time I go out, I learn a little something. And on the way home, I'm like, okay, next mod will be, I want to change. I would like this on the Jeep. Would you change anything after? So 2 overnights, you guys, consider 2 people. We got tent, camping gear, food, water.
Right.
There's a lot that has to go in your Jeep, and there's not a lot of room, as we know. So, change anything up?
What I would definitely change going on, as far as like what I put on the Jeep, obviously Under Armour on this thing is nice. I mean, if we looked underneath this Jeep, the factory skid plates are pretty well hammered.
Yeah, they took a good
they took a good beating, you know, on
did
other
their
trips
job.
I've done. But they definitely
But
did their job.
it'd be nice to know full armor, you could just glide off of things. You're not,
Yes.
You're not going to be worried about it so much, right?
Right.
Okay. Anything else?
As far as packing stuff in here, I've always camped in toy haulers, things like that, where you just kind of throw everything in there and go.
Sure.
This, you have to pack light, smaller, think outside the box a little more of, you have this much room,
Tear it down.
and you got to pack this much stuff.
Yeah.
So it's, you learned after the first night or 2 of what, okay, I really didn't need to pack that.
Yeah.
I didn't need to pack this. I wish I would have done this differently.
Sure.
We did pull the back seats out to have more room for it, which if you're traveling by yourself, probably wouldn't have to pull your seats out.
Yeah.
2 of us definitely have to pull them out of there. I would have
we-
done something a little different. We'd anchor
2 people,
things
we were
down.
pretty full, and
We were.
all my video gear and stuff I had to carry. That
Right.
was a few 4 other bags.
Yeah, that was 4 other bags,
Got to
correct.
go in there. So
So I would definitely change up the way we pack this thing.
what would you use? I saw some really nice setups from the other Jeeps that you guys will see as we go through the videos. But there were some cool setups. What'd you like? What are you looking at?
I like the racks that go across the back. There's some nice drawer systems out there. American Adventure Lab makes a really killer drawer system to kind of pack some stuff in the back with their top rack in
think
there.
I'm heading that way too.
Bolts a fridge underneath it. Definite nice to have. You can store all your smaller things in there if you want to take canned food, if you want to take your, strap your tent down to the back of your chairs and kind of make use of the room that your Jeep has.
Yeah. With everything tied down.
With everything tied down.
Yeah, because there's some of those obstacles we were throwing bags and gear all over the place.
We had stuff, it's like, God, is this
Like
going
a
to come
yard
back and
sale
hit
out
me?
there.
It was definitely fun. I would,
Yeah, we were just using a big cooler, and it did the job. But
Right.
would you do an ARB next time?
Definitely would do an ARB. I didn't do the hard wiring kit. Why I didn't take one on this trip, I just flat ran out of time.
Yeah.
But day 1, the coolers are good. Day 2, the ice starts to melt and it starts to slosh, and all you hear is the scraping of the
It's
rocks
loud.
and then the ice bouncing around in the cooler, and
That's right.
it starts to wear on you after a little while. But you don't want to drain it because then your stuff,
Yeah.
just typical thing of a cooler.
Yeah, it's a cooler. Yeah, the ARB would be nice.
ARB is
ARB
nice.
Super nice. And a good
You made a
rack system.
comment when you'd wake up the second day of pitch black outside, and you're walking around trying to find where your bearings are. All you see are lights. Like, what in the hell are those things?
Yeah, we had 16 Jeeps.
We had 16 Jeeps, and I think 14 of them had ARB fridges in them of
Dude.
some sort. So all you see is the glow of the fridges in them all.
Brad's referring to, I got up at 5 a.m., which is pitch black on our second campsite at Miller Lake, and I crawl out of the tent, and you can't see a thing. But I started looking at all these white dots, and I'm like, what? I couldn't figure out what I was looking at first. And to Brad's point, it was all the ARB lights on all the Jeeps in the campsite. But it's pretty funny. So I think I'm headed that way. I'm going to do an ARB. I'm going to do the American Adventure Lab.
The mass system, they call it.
Mass system was, you guys, I got to play around with the Canati Jeep. He had one installed just for his trip. It's absolutely silent. Everything is locked down.
It is. We've done a couple of them here. They've come and installed the first one we did in the first diesel we built, and then we installed one in same customer's second JL, and they're solid.
Legit.
They're
the way to go.
they're really solid.
Yeah. And for me, I'm kind of anal about rattles. When I start hearing things rattle, so if it's going to have that gear in there, it's got to run quiet.
Right.
I'm good, and that's kind of what we found with the American Adventure Lab. So I think that as I build my JL, I'm probably heading that direction for an expedition style vehicle. Anything else? So we covered. You'd add some storage. You'd add a slider.
I'd have storage
for your
slide for the fridge, obviously.
Add some armor, maybe.
I'd definitely put armor underneath it.
Yeah.
As far as inside stuff, as far as gear I'd take, I'd probably change up. Instead of the big camp chairs, I'd probably take the Smaller little tripod,
Yeah.
tripod chairs. Just think a lot smaller.
Yeah.
You know, think more backpacking.
Backpacking, that's it. My model, what I found was if you're looking for gear and you don't want to do things twice, which is kind of common for Jeepers, I did that, it didn't work out and I sold it, right? Look at camping gear that's designed to go in a backpack, like Brad just mentioned. It's tiny, small, like my jet boil I love. I can carry in one little kit a week's worth of meals, a tank of gas, and we have a hot meal, hot drink.
I packed a camp stove that's
in this, and that's nice. I mean, a lot of people had, 3-course meals set up with their wine, but that wasn't us.
I packed a bigger camp stove. It was a smaller one, but I packed one of those, and it's.
It just
I thought originally when I had it, it was okay. This is cool for everything I'm going to want for smaller stuff like an UTV or a boat or a Jeep. Yeah. Not so much. You learn rapidly the gear that. You learn rapidly the gear is everything.
Good choices. Very cool. Brad, thanks, man. It's
been
an amazing week. Thanks for having us
absolutely.
along, and look forward to doing this again with you.
Yes.
Now let's catch some footage of this everyman's build Jeep out conquering the Rubicon. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this comparison. Getting a chance to look at these two Jeeps side by side the way I just showed them to you, I think is very revealing. And here's my takeaway on all this. First of all, if we back up, a stock Jeep Rubicon is a very capable machine. If you've ever had a chance to wheel one stock, and if you do have a chance, I would say definitely do it. It'll teach you a lot about what the foundation you're working with when you're going to build a Jeep. But it's hugely capable. The thing that it suffers from is it doesn't flex super well, for starters, and it's limited in ground clearance. And I think the ground clearance part of it, when we fix that with a lift and go bigger tires, is really key to us getting the performance in the bigger off-road environments built into our Jeeps. So the other thing this taught me was, in the right hands, with a capable driver and someone who's cautious, but not necessarily easy. I mean, Brad did push the equipment a little bit, but he knows how to drive by feel also. The stock Rubicon axles are pretty hardy. Even spinning a 39-inch tire, in what you saw, the pretty rough environment on the Rubicon Trail. So I hope this gives you some basis as you build your Jeep and think about, most importantly, how you want to use your Jeep. I did an interview with Bryce Thompson from Dixie 4-Wheel Drive a few years back out at their place in Moab. And one of the things he said to me when we had talked, and this came up again when they built my Jeep, was that really what you should ask yourself is how you want to use your Jeep. And once you spend a little time figuring out what you want to actually use your Jeep for, then it's pretty easy to build it to that and build it right the first time. And I say build it right the first time because, this is my third build, and I'll tell you, I kind of made a lot of mistakes in the first two. It's getting better, but I made mistakes in not doing things probably right the first time around. Maybe going a little cheaper than I should, then you figure out, well, okay, now we gotta switch that out later and do something better. So spend some time before you start your build, figure out how you want to use your Jeep, and then build for that. And of course, like Shane was saying from GenRight, we fall in love with our Jeeps, we build them, and then we fall in love with them again, and we want to go bigger. And if you want to go bigger, you know, look into companies like Jinrite. They great people, great product, and as you can see, his JK was just superb. The guy didn't really need any spotting on the trail. It just walked over everything, and as you can see from the footage, that coilover suspension he had on there, that thing to me was so dialed in. It just looked so supple and so cush that he never looked like he was trying very hard. So anyways, that's it from here. I hope you guys enjoy the videos. Please share and hit the like button. Appreciate your support. Until next time, stay safe and be well. What's for dinner?
We got peppered beef hanger steak.
Oh, you're the man. Would you love those?
The burrito on the...
Yeah, right.
Yeah. What'd you make, Sharon?
I made stir-fried bison, rice, and veggies.
Oh, so it smells great, you guys. Just
You
saying.
are welcome to share.
I'll have a taste of that. Engine problems?
No, just burrito time.
How's this look, Brad? And this is where we'll sleep tonight. A very sincere thank you goes out to our friends at Dixie 4-Wheel Drive for having us along on this incredible journey.